it finally happened, sort of. Not exactly, but sort of. He didn't exactly get the job, but almost. He didn't get all the way NFL head coach, but sort of. He, you'd say, what am I talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is purely and simply uh, Eric Bieniemy, the now former offensive coordinator of the world champion Kansas City Chiefs yet again. Well, it was long expected that this would be the time that Eric got finally a head coaching job in the National Football League. And yet, a head coaching job in the National Football League. And yet, a whole another cycle went by with only one black coach being hired, D'Amico Ryans for the Texans, who replaced Lovie Smith. So we got no net gain in the number of African-American head coaches in the National Football League yet again. Horrible. Which makes me wonder and ask, what was the Atlanta 2022 Spring League meeting for, the one that ostensibly was to focus on minority hiring, but a dog and pony show? What did it yield? It's a fair question. It's a fair question. Did it yield more African Americans being placed in coordinator jobs? It looked like it might have, but it had no impact on the level of head coach. Did it yield talented coaches like Eric Bieniemy getting a promotion, in this case to assistant head coach? If you take a look at Bieniemy, and if you take a look at, for example, the man who sued the NFL, Brian Flores, you can make an argument toward that case. But it's still a drip drip as opposed to a splash. Now let's talk about Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy is the person who lays the groundwork for the plays that Andy Reid will call. The fake jet sweep pass was based on Eric Bieniemy's film study, not Andy Reid's. Eric Bieniemy beat the Eagles defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. You heard what I just told you. You heard what I just told you. I'll repeat it. Eric Bieniemy beat. Eric Bieniemy beat. Eric Bieniemy beat. Okay, Eric Bieniemy outcoached the man who was defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, who is now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, he did that. And yet, Eric didn't get the interview. He did. Okay? What is that? What is that? Racism is America's least addressed mental illness. I say least addressed because we all know it's a mental illness, but there's no pill that you can take to rid oneself of it. That's not to say it's not possible. It is. Because there's something going on chemically when you wind up realizing that people you thought were less than you aren't, and then later they become your friends. That all has a chemical impact. Well, how come there can't be a medication that causes the same thinking and behavior that leads to an elimination of racism in the person's mind? I'm just asking, all right? I'm just asking. All right, now let's talk about what Eric Bieniemy has done as Chiefs coordinator. Eric Bieniemy constructed an offense and taught the players that produced 2 Super Bowl championships and 3 appearances in the Super Bowl over the past 5 years. That is an amazing feat. Along the way, in other words, through the season, he's put plays out there that were copied by many in the NFL. Now, before you say those are Andy Reid's plays, I would say, nah. Andy called them. But Andy Reid was not the person who designed the swing around motion, as I call it, where you have the running back over here, and then he goes into this kind of orbit around, and then when the ball is snapped, he takes off. All right? That was Eric Bieniemy. He used it against the Raiders and clobbered my silver and black. Wow. That's exactly what he did. Clobbered my silver and black. I can't wait to see what Eric Bieniemy does with the Commanders, because he'll come in, he's with a head coach, Ron Rivera, go Bears, who has, had some medical challenges around cancer and maybe looking at a future where he can say, I want to leave this team in good hands. And it would seem that if he's saying that, thinking that, and I believe he should be thinking that, that is why he hired Eric Bieniemy, reportedly, according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL, the man he had in mind all along. Not bad at all. I kind of wonder who lobbied him. I wonder if Mike Silver did that. Anyway, whoever lobbied Ron Rivera to do that, kudos to them. Major league kudos to them. Now, in going to the Commanders, what do I think Eric Bieniemy will do? I think he's smart enough to not do the same thing as he did in Kansas City. I really do. I think that what he'll do is come up with something, well, first of all, something that's more attuned to the Commanders' personnel, but also something that challenges the defense and something that we've never seen the Commanders run before for the most part. He has that challenge because everyone's going to expect him to come in and just, run the Kansas City offense, right? What does that mean? Does that mean he won't use a read option style offense? No, because there are many ways to do the read option, all right? There are many ways to do the read option offense. Does it mean that he'll use 4 wide receivers sometimes, 5 wide sometimes? Does it mean he'll run the quarterback? Depends on the quarterback. Does it mean that Tyler Heinicke's days are numbered? Well, it could, but I doubt it because I think Mr. Heinicke from Stanford would do really well in a Kansas City style motion offense. I really do. So I wouldn't put the kibosh on the idea of Mr. Heinicke or beer guy starting. Beer guy, Heineken, right? Just kind of playing word salad there, okay? All right? Now, while we're talking about Eric Bieniemy, let's deal with the elephant in the room. Why it took him so long to get elevated, and was it just? All right, we've got to, as much as I really don't want to, we've got to focus on that, I think, because to me it's almost a Michael Irvin situation. You would say, what do I mean? When I say Michael Irvin situation, I mean it's a situation of accusations apparently false, okay? Because there wasn't video. This was the year 2000. This was way back, as they say, right? Right? So what was going on? Well, if I go to Google and I type Eric Bieniemy, okay, Colorado, all right? And one thing that comes up is characterized or really focused on by this title by Pro Football Network. Eric Bieniemy coaching profile, a Mercury past could hide blank, 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 okay? And I'm reading it right now. And it says, Eric Bieniemy coaching profile, a murky past could hide a bright future. And it says, Eric Bieniemy is an on-paper lock to be a top-tier head coach candidate, but something has held him back these past few years, and it could be his past. This was written January 8th of this year. It says, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, is an on-paper lock to be a top head coach candidate. He has been the offensive coordinator for the league's most exciting offense for 5 years, ranking first in points scored twice, finishing in the top 5 4 times, and always finishing in the top 10. Over the full 5-year span, no one has scored more points than the Chiefs. And yet Bieniemy, once considered a hot candidate to be a head coach, isn't generally considered to be a top head coaching candidate these days. After receiving first-round interviews with 10 of the 12 open jobs in 2020 and 2021, Bieniemy only received one interview in 2022, and that's the Denver Broncos. Now they said that Bieniemy was a gifted but troubled player. Bieniemy was an All-American running back, and I remember him, for the national champion Colorado Buffaloes, rushed for 1,628 yards and 17 touchdowns in 1990, third in the country in both categories. Bieniemy supplemented his rushing with some capable receiving and finished first in college football in yards from scrimmage. He finished third in the Heisman voting behind BYU's Ty Detmer and Notre Dame's Raghib Rocket Ismail. My stepbrother-in-law, my rest in peace, late stepbrother-in-law's client, Rocket. As a result of his play, Bieniemy was the only active player selected to Colorado's all-century team. That was enough for the San Diego Chargers to select him early in the second round in 1991, the third running back selected in the draft. Bieniemy ended up buried in the depth chart behind Pro Bowler Marion Butts and 2 backups for most of his career in San Diego, but was able to sign a contract in free agency with the Cincinnati Bengals, working as part of a running back committee, if you will. After a few years there and 1 year with the Philadelphia Eagles, Bieniemy retired from playing football to coach his alma mater at Colorado, where he finished his degree while coaching running backs for the Buffaloes. Now, they claim that his time as a player here was fraught with a number of legal incidents, including a bar fight as a college player, allegedly instigating when someone called him a racial slur. Check. And when I say check, I don't mean what you think I mean. Hold on a second. Check, all right? He also had a number of driving violations ranging from relatively minor, driving a defective vehicle, didn't have enough money to buy one because, hey, you know, athlete, comes from a poor family, okay? All right, and black, all right? Check, okay? And then he had another one, so somewhat, so it took like speeding, and then an alarming, this says alarming, DUI in 2001, excuse me. And then it says, and here's the one I write as far as the checks. The first two, the racial slur, I think Eric gets a pass. Being called a name like the name that he was called is not something that someone right is going to react to the same way unless they've been around black folks all their life and they're sensitized a certain way. Which I'm happy to say is more true today than it's ever been before, but I digress. This was 2001. So if he turned around and knocked the coop out of somebody, okay, he did it. I'm not one who preaches violence, but I don't know that situation intimately. But when someone tells me that Eric was called something, a racial slur, and we know what that racial slur was, then we start to say, you provoked him, you shouldn't have, and you were asking for it. And the person who did it was probably drunk too in the bar. And the bar also could be held liable for that. And there are some states wherein if someone does that to you and they call you a racial slur in the bar can be held liable. Okay? So give Eric a pass there. That's why I did that little check thing. All right? And then the others are, okay, a lot of black athletes who go to the NFL come from colleges and they come from poor backgrounds. So it's very common, and this is why name, image, likeness is so great today, to see a college athlete who may very well be a star, but doesn't even have enough money to get his car fixed. All right? Whereas his white counterpart gets deals from alums and everything else. But if he's black and he gets those deals, then he winds up like Reggie Bush did, getting into so much trouble that for a point he lost his Heisman. Am I saying that white athletes get a pass when it comes to getting alumni help monetarily? I'm saying yes, absolutely. That's why I did the checks. That's 2 checks right there, okay? Then the DUI matter, all right? I don't know of a college kid, female or male, that hasn't gotten to a place where they had more drink than they should have. It's almost a rite of passage. You can't say, hey, don't drink. The best thing you can say is, you should take vitamin B12 before you go out to drink because you're less likely to get drunk if you're going to do so. And don't go out to get drunk. Go out to have fun, but, give them rules to live by. A lot of colleges don't do that or chaperone them. You get the idea. It amounts to what we call a youthful indiscretion that doesn't rise to the point of saying, we're not going to make you a head coach in the NFL later in life. It just doesn't. All right? It just doesn't. Okay? And so then they said that the most concerning set of allegations has to do with an allegation they put his hands on the neck of a parking attendant, and I don't know this situation at all, and the alleged victim said that the incident was not painful, and she described it as startling. Now, that could be taken a number of ways. If it wasn't painful, and did they know each other? Was he just kidding around and someone else saw it and decided they would try to get him in trouble? All right? Okay. It says here, a member of Bieniemy's party, after Bieniemy had left, was also accused of assaulting a different attendant who asked what was going on. Now, look, that's not Eric himself. Eric had left. Says so here. All right. Then it says that Bieniemy was also accused of interfering with a firefighter attempting to put out a fire in his mother's garage. He allegedly shoved the firefighter while he was engaged in his duties to put out the fire. Now, why? Okay? My point is, when you look at these, all right, there's nothing, all right? I mean, nothing. The only time he was arrested was a DUI. But everything else is mirrors. What do I mean? I'm saying if you turn the mirror this way and that way, it can start to look different. With the truth. These put together are not reasons for Eric Bieniemy not to be a head coach. Because, and I will tell you why, if I take Mike Vrabel not had 1, but 2, but I have three incidents involving alcohol and assault, if I'm not mistaken, in one case. And yet, and still, he was Patriots player, linebacker coach, and then head coach of the Titans and still is head coach of the Titans. No one ever brought up these, if you want to say, Bieniemy style incidents when he was being evaluated as a head coaching candidate. Why? Because he's white. Is that right? No, it's wrong, and it's psychotic. Straight out. All right? Then it says here that Bieniemy was at the center of a coaching scandal. Okay? This is another reason why Bieniemy is going through all this, or went through. Could surround, all right? It says, I'll get to that in a second. It said could surround, all right, the scandal that struck Colorado while he was the running backs coach, all right? And then it says that several recruits and Colorado football players allegedly attended parties where women were allegedly, they were done to badly. I'll put it that way. I don't like to use the language here at all. Though the most specific charges were dropped by the prosecution in favor of a broader one, which was creating a hostile environment for women, alleging that recruits were promised, nookie at the party, all right? Now, here's the thing. It says several recruits and Colorado football players. It says nothing about Bieniemy, who was the running backs coach. It doesn't say he was there. You see what I'm getting at? I can take the background of any NFL head coach and I can spin it in a way that makes that person look like Eric Bieniemy. I already talked about Vrabel. Okay. I can pick out Bruce Arians. All right. I can pick it out anybody you like. You want to go back to talk about Pete Carroll at USC and the allegations that he was faced with? All right. None of those stopped any of those folks from getting a head coaching job. None of them. None of them. Where was it ever written in any NFL head coaching job description, choir boy? Answer, it wasn't. So why would you suddenly pretend like you're looking for a choir boy and evaluate Eric Bieniemy or somebody black when you know doggone well you're not going to attach the same moniker to someone white? And yet that's what's done again and again and again. And thank God for social media, which has produced a more savvy and hip society. That is coming to a slow end. It would be nice if it came to an immediate, abrupt end. This is ridiculous. So if you heard all that and you're saying, that's it? The answer is, yeah, that's it. There ain't nothing else. That's it. Now, let me address your question, Jameis Winston, okay? We all know watching this program that the New Orleans Saints have treated Jameis Winston like horse patootie. Got him as a free agent. From what I was told, they didn't know what he was truly capable of. It's like, don't you actually watch film? They bought in all the hype. This is including Sean Payton, that Jameis was an interception machine. Not stopping to think that he was in an offense that by its design caused its quarterbacks to produce a lot of interceptions. How do I know? Because Carson Palmer said so. That's right. Carson Palmer said so. He said that you need 2 years at least before you master the old Risket Biscuit offense. I say old now because he doesn't do it anymore. He's retired. That Arians had at Arizona that he then brought to Tampa. All right? Carson Palmer threw 22 interceptions his first season in Bruce Arians' offense. No one talks about that except me. 22. Okay? What's 8 plus 22? It's 30. So Jameis wasn't far off from Carson Palmer's experience. Carson Palmer personally said that Jameis would perform much better in his year 2. But that wasn't enough for the Bucs brass. They got rid of him. But in bringing in Tom Brady, they did something that no one wants to focus on. They changed the offense. What did they do? They made it ball control. That was after Brady threw 2 pick sixes that first season out. Remember that? Remember how he came out against the Saints and just, it was awful, okay? Yeah, had to change the system. No more risk it, no biscuit. No, So now, here we are. They bring in Jameis, and Jameis does what he does. Then he gets with the Saints, and no one has any idea except me, because I made a video about it and I proved it, that Jameis' best place was in a ball control passing offense, which is exactly what Sean Payton runs. So guess what? Not surprisingly, he had his best year ever, did Jameis. 14 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions, and that's it, all right? And that's it. So how do I think Jameis would do if he wound up with Eric Bieniemy, all right? I think Jameis would do exceptionally well. I candidly am a little bit concerned about the mobility issue and rehabbing. I know the one thing that Eric will not have Jameis do is run pass plays that are deep dropbacks. He's not interested in getting his quarterbacks killed, okay? At all. Okay? Not, all right? Not at all. Not at all. Now, will Jameis head to the Commanders? Or, here's what I think could happen. I think the Saints getting Derek Carr will fall apart. All right? Andre says, this is goofy. Now he has 2 jobs to prove himself. Yeah, exactly. It is goofy, isn't it? It's very goofy. But my point is, you're absolutely right. Goofy is the operative term. I'm glad you used it. I think I'll borrow it. Yeah, goofy. I think the Saints' chase for the Great White Hope quarterback is going to fail yet again. Because they tried to do it, last year. Didn't work. Tried to do it the year before that. Didn't work. I think the Lord's trying to tell the Saints something. I just don't think it's going to work. All right? They've got Jameis sitting there who knows their offense, and they have not seen a healthy Jameis Winston in their offense. Unless, of course, they're going to fire Pete Carmichael and surprise everybody, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. All right? So, Derek Carr is a free agent. He thinks he can command $37 million a year, and the Saints would be fools, absolute fools, to try and go after him. You want to know why? I'll give you one name, Alvin Kamara, because Alvin Kamara is about to be suspended, and the Saints are going to be on a desperate search for a running back. They may have to go through free agency. They may have to go through the draft or both to get him. Alvin Kamara's legal problems have wrecked the Saints' personnel plans. I repeat, Alvin Kamara's legal problems have wrecked the Saints' personnel plans. Can I get a thumbs up for that? Because you know I'm absolutely right. You know I'm absolutely right. And you would say, wait. What did Alvin Kamara do? He was in Las Vegas last year and decided, because he was drunk, that he was going to go and punch out this guy who was trying to allegedly get on the elevator. So what? You know? And then basically beat this guy to a pulp. That's what Alvin Kamara is alleged to have done. So now, okay, and so let me see what the latest on that is. All right, because remember, Jameis is still under contract with the Saints. Let's not get it twisted, all right? Let's not get it twisted, okay? So it's, if I type Alvin Kamara here, big letters, and there's Alvin Kamara, there's a video, folks. Woo, all right? Okay? And we've got the latest people say Alvin Kamara news. It says Saints running back Alvin Kamara and 3 others indicted by grand jury for alleged Vegas nightclub beating. And this is racist. This Cam 30 has black Saints running back. Yeah, so what? What an idiot. When Cam 30 gets into trouble, I'm going to write, stupid white guy who likes to make racist comments gets into trouble for being a stupid white guy who likes to write racist comments. Okay? All right. At any rate, Alvin Kamara, according to NFL Draft Diamonds, was indicted for a Las Vegas nightclub brawl, and there is a video of the fight. Yeah, there is a video of the fight. All right? I'm not going to show it to you here because if I do, it'll trigger the boo birds who will say, boo, YouTube, he's showing this fight. And I would say, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have shown it. So I'm not going to show the fight. That's not what this is about anyway. It's about Eric Bieniemy. And so I'm kind of going, back over that way, all right? So the point I'm making is that TMZ has it, okay? And as I look at it, they got an arrow pointing at him, and he walks in there, and because Alvin's not a big guy, right? And he's in there, and all of a sudden he goes and there's a lot of pushing and shoving, a lot of people, and I don't, as I see Alvin threw a punch to someone, hit the guy in the face, the guy went down on the ground, all right, and then Alvin went down after him. That part is bad. I was this close to saying, I think Alvin will beat the rap. But after what I just saw, ain't happening. He is not beating that rap. How this is going to be adjudicated, I don't know. Depends on how good his lawyers are. He's going to need some good ones. Folks, friends don't let friends, or I should be more blunt about it, friends don't let their athlete friends, or I should be even more blunt about it, friends don't let their African-American athlete friends go out drunk and act stupid, all right? But that's exactly what happened. You had these groupies, okay?
Dumbfounded.
I'm dumbfounded too, Skip, as to why Alvin would get himself in this situation. But Alvin, by the grace of God, may have done Jameis a favor by getting into trouble. Because now the Saints have to figure out how to replace him, and that consideration, that worry, is at the top of the list. So it is not an automatic that Jameis is going to be shipped off someplace else. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. Because think about how big an offensive turnaround that would be. Let's say that they did part with both Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara. Who do you have at running back? Who do you have in your offense that you can really count on that's known to the crowd? Chris Olave is new. He's your rookie. All right. Alvin, gone. All right. Taysom Hill, you're going to start Taysom Hill and Andy Dalton yet again. Yeah, look at how that worked. It worked better when they had Alvin Kamara. Oh, Alvin's not around. Alvin's not around. Okay? So all of that, I predict, will cause Jameis Winston to remain with New Orleans Saints, and they may even restructure his contract and give him something a little better. Depends on how he's rehabbing, which I would be shocked if it wasn't good. So that gets to the Commanders and their quarterback situation. But not only that, you have to ask, okay, that having said that, all right, what are we looking at with respect to the NFL draft and the Commanders' position there, all right? And I would say, as I look at this, I'm looking at the draft order, according to NFL.com, all right? Saints hold the 29th now. Jen says Washington would consider. I couldn't read that. Hey, if you spend $2 and buy the super chat part, it'll stick there and I can read it. Otherwise, it dissolves within like 3 seconds. It's really frustrating. I'm sorry. At any rate, as you know, we've got the Chicago Bears #1, and no, the Bears should not trade Justin Fields. That's stupid. All right. The Texans at #2, the Cardinals at 3, Colts at 4, Seahawks at 5. All right. Lions at 6, Raiders at 7, Falcons at 8, Panthers at 9. Some think Carolina will get Jameis. Eagles at 10, Tennessee Titans at 11, Houston Texans at 12 again, Jets at 13, Pats at 14, Packers at 15, Washington Commanders at 16. Not bad. Not bad. Everyone thinks that they'll get either a quarterback, a cornerback, or an offensive lineman, okay? Now, if they go after a quarterback, who is likely to be there when they need him? Considering the #1 player isn't Bryce Young, well, it could be that Bryce Young goes #2 to the Texans. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Alabama, coached by Alabama, right? That's a possibility. So the Commanders, more than likely, I believe, will pick a quarterback. The question is who? The question is who? And let's see what say if I type NFL draft Commanders, let's see what the prognostication is right to this point. I'm running up against my time limit here. We've got that's 2022 NFL draft, and the Athletic has a big board, but they have a paywall, which I'm not even going to bother touching. And there's thought that they will take Trenton Simpson, linebacker. All right, there. Now, I don't see a draft that have the Commanders actually taking a quarterback in terms of the mocks yet. I'm looking right here, but a lot of people are pulling the cornerback. All right, the cornerback. So it's quite likely that the Commanders, unless they make some sort of wild trade, won't pick a quarterback at 16. That's quite likely. All right. Now, who are the top quarterbacks? And the question you're thinking is, wouldn't Eric Bieniemy want to have, a new quarterback that he can coach his own? You got some choices here. #1, according to this ranking, and I've got to call Bill Carroll and have him send me his quarterback rankings, are C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, Bryce Young of Alabama, Hendon Hooker of Tennessee, who I'm not really all that high on, Will Levis of Kentucky, and Tanner McKee of Stanford. All right. Now, my prediction is that looking at this, given the success that Taylor Heineke has had, Stanford guy, Tanner McKee could wind up a Commander. Could, okay? Now, that's to say that at 16, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker, and Will Levis all would have had to go before him. Or maybe it's Will Levis. I can tell you that, yeah, Stroud, Young, and Hooker are going to be gone by 16. Barring some weird report that causes one of the three to fall. So it's possible. It's possible. It's possible. I think if the Commanders could swing a deal to get C.J. Stroud, woo, look out. That'll be an exciting player. I'm going to come back to this, folks. I've got to wrap it up. What do you think? What will Eric Bieniemy do with the Washington Commanders offense? What kind of plays will he run? Will they go after a quarterback? Do you actually think Jameis Winston is going to leave the Saints after Alvin Kamara? That's another video. But it's related to this, right? All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. That ends this broadcast. We'll see you.